Danny, I know you've had a chance today to be just talking to voters in the immediate aftermath of it to get their reaction. What are they telling you?
Aaron, quite frankly, we spoke to a lot of Puerto Ricans here in Philadelphia today, and they told me that they're mad, they're frustrated. Many of them told me that they took these remarks personally. And listen, Aaron, we're in a Democratic city speaking with a normally Democratic coalition, so it's not that surprising we'd find some outrage. But I was surprised at the level of outrage that we really did see, because we spoke to not only Democrats, we also spoke to an undecided Puerto Rican voter, also a Puerto Rican voter who already voted for Trump, and they told me their frustration with these remarks was palpable as well. Vice President Harris's campaign wasted little time Monday morning.
They did us a favor. They woke up. They woke up. They woke us up. They woke us up.
Assembling a host of Puerto Rican surrogates in Philadelphia.
I hope that people are as angry and they turn that anger into vote.
Pennsylvania has more than 480,000 residents of Puerto Rican descent, according to 2022 data from the U.S. Census Bureau. That's the most out of any of the battleground states. And the Philadelphia metro area is among the top regions with Puerto Ricans outside of New York and Florida. Philadelphia City Council member and Harris supporter Quetzal Lozada knew she had to speak up after last night.
I think that what folks don't realize is that when Puerto Ricans get angry, we turn into action mode very quickly.
Around Philly's largely Puerto Rican Fair Hill neighborhood, voters we spoke with had heard the comments.
Él no sabe lo que está hablando. Puerto Rico es una isla bella. Puerto Rico es...
He doesn't know what he's talking about. Puerto Rico is a beautiful island. 32-year-old Christian Hernandez is voting for the first time this year for Vice President Harris. The Trump rally remarks only solidified his vote. You think Puerto Ricans heard those words from last night?
Yeah, for sure. A lot of Boricuas, they're mad and disappointed.
Marcos Pagan didn't like the comments at all. When you hear stuff like Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage, what goes through your mind?
To be honest, I feel disrespected because he doesn't know what we go through. You know, we've been through a lot.
But Marcos still is not sure who he's voting for. When you hear comments like that, does that change your perspective about who you might vote for?
No.
That's not enough.
I'd rather see it to believe it, you know. Everybody can actually find the words.
Fernando Santiago already cast his vote for former President Donald Trump. But now he and his whole family are mad about last night's remarks. What did you think about him calling Puerto Rico a floating island of trash?
That's messed up because that's my island, you know. I don't want people talking like that, you know. This is not right.
Con la falta de respeto, con la actitud de ellos, no van a llegar lejos. Porque en verdad...
I think he's not going to go far because of this lack of respect towards Puerto Ricans.
Exacto, exactamente.
Now, I will say, we reached out to the Trump campaign, specifically in Pennsylvania, to speak with someone about what happened last night. They just pointed us to the statement that they released last night saying, again, this joke does not reflect the views of President Trump or the campaign. I will note, though, tomorrow, former President Trump is expected to be in Allentown, Pennsylvania, another city here with an enormous Latino and especially enormous Puerto Rican population. We'll see if he addresses it then.
Yeah,
Aaron?
that is going to be fascinating and so important. Thank you very much, Danny. Actually, speaking to those voters, everyone's here with me now. Van, let me start with you, because I know you're very close to the Harris ground operation in Philly, so you really know what's going on there on the ground. I know that there have been some challenges for her there, but does this change the game? That joke about the floating pile of garbage made by that comedian last night, does that change the game at this late hour?
It energizes a certain kind of voter. Look, if you're a Trump voter, you've forgiven him for so much stuff that it's almost an automatic thing. What you have, though, are people who are for Kamala Harris, but they have questions and they're lukewarm. This is a couch propulsion device, like in a cartoon, just pushing people off the couch to be like, hey, hold on a second, we're not going to just be insulted. He insulted the city of Detroit. That also is a couch propulsion device. So him going around, being an insult comic, hiring insult comics, and acting this way it's not turning people one way or the other, but it's motivating people who already don't like him and who now feel that it's a matter of personal pride to stand up to him.
Couch propulsion device, a new term, right? Mark Caputo, you were first to report that the comedian there wanted to call Kamala Harris the C word, and that had actually been in the script. The campaign requested that came out, so it did. Then they're saying that this specific line was ad-libbed in, but then there were others the one I referred to, the incredibly graphic sexual comment about Hispanics coming into the United States. What are your sources telling you about how the jokes that did make it through got through? Are they trying to say every one of them was ad-libbed?
Well, we're able to figure out, just kind of parsing what happened, or kind of calculating out what happened, is the Puerto Rico joke, the Trash Island joke, was ad-libbed allegedly. The black person carving watermelons for Halloween was ad-libbed. These are words I never thought I would say on cable news.
Yep.
And there's a divide over whether they knew about the crude joke that compared sexual completion, let's say, with Latino migration into the United States. I guess that's a very difficult way to describe it, but
I think that's
I can't think of
accurate,
a better
though.
way.
We all know what you're talking about. Yep.
Right. So there's a divide about whether they knew about that or not. But the other jokes, Palestinians throwing rocks, Jews being potentially greedy or liking paper, a reference to Haitians, the false story of Haitians eating cats and dogs in Ohio, a joke about the Trump assassination attempt. All of those things, from what I was told, did make it through. The broader story here is this, is that the Trump campaign wants to be norm-busting, abnormal. It wants to do new and edgy things. And so they invited a roast master comic edgelord to give a speech at a presidential campaign in the waning days of the campaign, in the waning days of the race. And the guy did his comic edgelord routine, and this is what it looks like. Is some things are appropriate for podcasts, which he has. Kill Tony's a very popular podcast, and he's very funny if you like that sort of humor. But it didn't mix with a presidential campaign event, and that's what you're seeing currently.
No, and there is a tone that people expect, even in the context of the Trump campaign and the way that there's been the consistent behavior. I mean, Lulu, as I said, Trump has so far not distanced himself from this, even though the campaign has tried to. J.D. Vance also, though, did bring it up today, and let me just play what he said.
It's telling that Kamala Harris's closing message is essentially that all of Donald Trump's voters are Nazis, and you should get really pissed off about a comedian telling a joke. Maybe it's a stupid racist joke, as you said. Maybe it's not. I haven't seen it. I'm not going to comment on the specifics of the joke. But I think that we have to stop getting so offended at every little thing in the United States of America. I'm so over it.
So, Lulu, you had a chance to interview Vance recently. So what he just did there is saying, Kamala Harris is saying every one of you is a Nazi. So in that context, one bad joke, even if it's racist, let's put it in context. That's essentially what he's saying there. You interviewed him and understand how he speaks and how, his mind works. What do you make of this response in the speech?
Well, I mean, Senator Vance can run, but he can't hide from that. It's classic, right? I didn't hear it. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not true, but what about this other thing? And it's just the classic rhetorical, circular argument that doesn't address the issue at hand, which was incredibly offensive language. I mean, there's reporting from my colleagues at the New York Times that say that, the Trump campaign is extremely worried about this. One joke, possibly you can excuse. Two jokes you can say, all right, maybe it was a bad call. But as Mark Caputo has just said, there were a series of these. Right. And I don't think they should be lauded for actually striking out the C word and, having the sitting vice president and the first potential female president of this country being called that name. So I don't think that there's anything that they can say at this point, but I would, if indeed former President Trump wants to make amends to the Puerto Rican community, perhaps he might say, perdón, I'm sorry. So it'd be a good start.
Michaela, the Trump campaign made a comment. Trump has said nothing, but you just heard Danny Freeman talking about how Trump's going to be in Allentown, which is home to a huge number of voters, Puerto Rican and Puerto Rican descent and Hispanic voters, and that's going to be a moment tomorrow where he has a choice. So what do you think? Do you think that he should, and do you think that he will somehow distance himself from these comments? I hesitate to use the word apologize.
Yeah,
I think what Mark said was really interesting, right? Like, this was an interesting call to even have a comic at an event like this. It was, I think it was an unforced error. Whether or not it survives this 24-hour news cycle, I really don't see it. With due respect, I think there will be much effort to make this be the only thing that anybody talks about for the next 6 days. But the reality is it is serving right now to stop people from talking about the disastrous policies. And so in that respect, it was a gift to the Harris campaign, which we didn't really, I think the Trump campaign wanted to give them at that time.